Hey, what's up, guys? Dave here with Grim Games. Today we're going to talk about deck building and how to go about choosing the cards for your deck and like what you want to do. First, when you're trying to pick out a deck to play, one, you want to decide what you like to do in card games, whether that be staying really low to the ground, being very aggro, whether you like to be able to play throughout every phase of the game, whether or not you're like completely in control, but if you just like being able to play, a mid-range deck might be for you. And if you like the longer games and you really want to drag out a game, maybe whittle down your opponent's resources to where they don't have much, and then you can just overwhelm them later. You might want to look at control decks. Um, there are like a plethora of other things that go into deck building, and a lot of the leaders, especially in the One Piece card game, do like very specific niche scenario things. The reason I'm clicked in green is because we're going to go through the process that I like think about whenever I'm deck building. And I haven't built Kinemon yet for OP04 for whatever reason. I think this deck can still be very good. And we're just going to jump straight into it. So leader ability aside, because I'm going to talk about that later. You want to think about like staple cards in your color before you go into like what your leader is trying to do. Now, when I think like staple cards for green, one of the first ones that comes to mind, one of the best cards, green cards in the game, in my opinion, is this Blocker Law. Now, I'm not going to just slam him in the deck immediately because this is a niche leader who does a very specific thing, which is playing Wano characters for free, or not free, but for cheaper. So he's a card we're probably going to revisit later when I talk about another aspect of deck building that I think about. Other green staple cards or other green cards that I would consider staples. Let's see. Also, I'm going to just go and give the preface that like when you're deck building, the more you know about the game and like what's already out, the easier and faster the process is going to be. If you're just starting out, there's nothing wrong with that. Please do play our card game, but you will have like a tougher time, and you'll read some cards and just be like, oh yeah, that seems good. I could definitely throw that in a deck. Like, I'm just going to pick like a random card. Oh, a point of contention, but it probably will go in this deck, is this Yamato. Like, on surface, you're like, oh, double attack, banish. Like, those are two really good things. I'm going to throw that in any green deck I can. Where this card is good and will fit into a category I talk about later, it doesn't necessarily go into every green deck you ever play. This card is very different in that it opens up combos and is also a blocker. So back to the topic of green staples. I think this card is a green staple now. This card gives almost every green deck a chance. And one of the only reasons that green leaders are still viable is this card. So we are going to go ahead and slam 4 copies of this card in the deck. Also, Kinemon's top end is quite literally just this Odin. So I think having 4 copies of this card in the deck is really going to help out in those control matchups, and it might help us stabilize against the aggro matchups if they get too out of control. Other green staples include this beige. He, again, is going to go on the maybe list because there are other cards that we're going to want to fit into this deck. So we're going to keep him on the back burner when I talk about flex cards. Punk Gibson is also going to be a maybe. But like the reason we look at staples first is because if like it makes sense to throw them in a green leader, like if the green leader just has a generically good ability, like the blocker kid, or not blocker, like the starter deck kid does, then you can just like slam these staple cards in there and they're going to be fine. They're going to be really good. But this leader is a little different because he does something niche. Now we get to the next part of deck building, which is playing cards that go in tandem with your leader ability. Most leaders in the One Piece card game are trying to do a very specific thing. Like this leader is very generically good in that his ability doesn't require you to have anything except a card in your hand. Other green leaders, like I don't count these two as green leaders. This leader, similar to this one, wants to play Wano cards. This leader wants to play vanillas because it says play playing characters without an effect in hand. This guy needs to play, these two need to play Ease Blue leaders. This guy, you probably want to play more events with him. So on and so forth, and you can take that into any color that you see up here when you're talking about cards that fit with your leader ability. So with this leader ability, we're looking for Wano country cards. So we're looking for cards from the land of Wano. First and foremost, this card searches your land of Wano cards. So we can automatically say that this would probably be a 4 of if we are trying to build a deck around Land of Wano cards. We have a searcher, now we need cards to search with it. This card is particularly good because if you look at this leader's ability, when you have one or less characters in play, reduce the play cost of the next 3 cost or higher Wano Country card. This meets criteria A, being a 3 cost Wano Country card. So if you go second, a play that you have in your brain is, I can play this on the first turn. Most people have to wait a turn and play this on their second turn, whether they go first or second. You get to play it on your first turn. So this card is absolutely insane, which means you should play 4 of it in this deck. This is another searchable card, and another thing that you have to think about when deck building are counter cards. This card has 1k counter. Most cards will have 1k counter. But your cards with really good abilities, such as these 2 cards, will not have counter, but they'll have the normal stat line for whatever cost they have. So this has 2k counter, which is really good, but it also has a baller ability that lets you rest stuff, so you have a versatile card in this one. Now, there are a bunch of Wano Country cards, and something that you can do on the simulator, which makes things really easy, is just type in Wano. Since you're looking for Land of Wano or Wano Country cards, all the cards that you can search off or search with Momonosuke are going to be in this pool. So this option also takes out a lot of the stress and confusion of looking at a whole long list of green cards, every green card that the game has, and being like, oh my gosh, I'm overwhelmed with all the choices that I have. No, you can just find what you want to do and stick to it. Now we are going to throw in other flavor cards to help consistency with the deck, but this is going to be what we're primarily trying to do. So this card is also ridiculous when you're thinking about Wano Country cards, because again, it's a 3 cost or higher, which means you get to play it cheaper with Kinemon, and it has a rest ability and has the 4 for 6k stat line. So to start, and this is just to start, it's probably not going to end up that way. We're going to slam 4 copies of this card in our deck. Now we've come to the point where we're thinking, okay, we have a total of 12 cards in our deck that don't have counter power. Granted, we've got 30 more cards to choose, but it is still something to think about when you're going through your process of deck building. So most of the other cards we're going to be playing in the deck do have counter power. So a lot of people would not play this card in this list, and for this leader, this gets into another slight facet of deck building we like to call pet cards. I think this card is still insane in this leader, but because I don't think it's a necessary card and a card that is just powerful, we're going to put it at 3 instead of just your normal 4. Other cards that are just really good with leader, this is your boss monster for this deck. So we can start with 4, but then again, we look at our deck and we're like, okay, now that's 16 cards that don't have counter power. We might get a big hand, but we're not going to be able to counter out of it, so what's the point of having the big hand? So we are going to drop this down to 3 copies as well. Now we can look for other good cards. This is just a good Wano Country card because you rest stuff a lot and you end up attacking with him a lot, so we can slam for him in there, and it's okay. It's pretty good. Looks pretty good so far. This card was at one point a Wano staple and a green staple, and in my mind, this card is still good. But we do have a larger pool of good green cards to choose from now that set 4 is out. So we do have to consider those options as well. But just to start with, because we are looking for cards that we can search off Momonosuke with, and some cards that we can play off this, this card does not quite meet that criteria, but it does only cost 2 and can come in handy. So we are going to play 2 copies of that card. It also helps us curve out if our opponent makes us go first, or if they end up playing something wild on turn 2 and we can get rid of it. There are a couple applications of this card. Next, looking at this list, and again, this is where gameplay knowledge and card knowledge comes into play. Kazuki Toki is a good card that goes with specifically Kazuki Odin characters, which this list is playing 3, 6, currently 10 copies of. So at worst, she's a 1k counter in her hand, but she fulfills the role of a blocker as well when we have any of our Kazuki Odins on the board. So we're going to slam 4 of her in there as well. All right, so looking at the list of Wano Country cards, I think these are the only ones that we will actually play. We might revisit Paradise Waterfall, or I might revisit Paradise Waterfall, but for right now, we're just going to get rid of the Wano tab, and we still have a bunch of cards. We have 13 slots left to fill up with just good green cards, and there are plenty of really, really good green cards. This is where we get into player preference and what's going to work best with the strategy we're going for. And really, we're just going for board control through resting and getting rid of stuff, and Dawn efficiency by making stuff cheaper, getting card draw with this. Like, we've got a lot of stuff going on in this deck. So we've got to think about cards that we can put in that will best help us fulfill what we're trying to do, which ultimately is win the game. Now, something that I'm looking at right away and seeing is that we don't have a lot of 2K counters. Like, this is our only 2K for the time being. When thinking about 2K counters, most of the time you want to pick something that is like also playable. Like, it's not very often that you just pick a 2K to pick a 2K. And something that you jump to usually when you look at green are supernovas, because supernova cards there are a lot of really good green supernova cards, which means you would slam in Bonnie. But with our card pool being the way it is, and not having as many good or as many slots to put in supernova cards, it's probably too late unless we make a bunch of adjustments up here to play like a 50-50 Wano package and supernova package. So we're going to stay away from Bonnie for right now. If we end up deciding that we want to play less Wano cards and throw in a supernova package, then we could definitely think about throwing in Scratchman Apu. But since that is not on our radar right now, and I'm just throwing this deck together to talk about like my thought process, we can just look at generic 2K counters and what's good. So matchup, this is where you can start thinking about matchups and like what might give your deck a problem. Now, looking at this deck, this is very mid-rangey so far. This is very like, we've got a bunch of cards that cost anywhere from 3 to 5, and then we've got our top end. So we want to play cards that help us against aggro decks, because those decks are going to just go faster than us. This card is actually very, very good at handling that, because it lets you, it does what this deck already does, which is rest stuff, but it also acts as a 2K counter. So we're going to throw 4 of these in there for like mostly 2K counter. That's not the card I wanted. I wanted that one. How did it even click on that? That one's not even on my screen right now. That's crazy. Anyway, yeah, that card was right here. Okay. So we have more 2K counters. We have 8 2Ks. I would personally feel a lot better with 12 2Ks, especially in a deck where we're going to be drawing a lot of cards, because like we really do want as much counter potential as possible. So let's see here. Other viable 2K options. This is a very viable 2K option. But if we throw this card in the deck, then Paradise Waterfall becomes a lot better. So we probably put Paradise Waterfall if we're playing this card. Let's see. Other 2K options. Let's see. Why don't we abuse this new search feature where we search Counterpower 2K? Okay, so these are our options for 2K counters, right? We already have this one. We have this one. Other decent ones. This one's like, okay, it'll probably never see the board. This one is also fine, but again, it's more for like event decks. This one, this one is neat if we decide to throw in any of the Heart Pirate stuff, but I don't think we're going to end up doing any of that. So for right now, and because I want to feel safe with a bunch of 2Ks, we're going to throw in 4 of this carrot. Cool. So we have 6 slots left in our deck. Let's get rid of this. And this is where we can start talking about like flavor cards and stuff like that. And techie options, which is like way back in the beginning of this video when I was talking about it. The type of cards that that I was referring to. These are tech options. So these are cards that you put in your deck to either make your game plan more consistent. They might not seem at face to fit in with the strategy, but they somehow end up helping you. Or cards, and this is where where tech options mostly come into play. Cards that help you win unfavorable matchups. So I can already tell you off the bat that this deck will have a hard time against yellow. The 10 cost Big Mom is just absolutely insane. And right now, there are no cards in our deck that make that any easier for us. And something that makes yellow so good is that it really is just hard to play cards that are good against that specific 10-drop Big Mom. Because that is one of the few decks and one of the few cards that interacts with a Life Zone. So we might just have to say oopsies and forego any of that. If you guys can think of any tech options against yellow, please just comment them. But the only other things that I can think of against yellow are blockers, because they help drag the game out and blocker. And yellow has like next to no removal unless they're playing Yamato, because most yellow players don't want to give up a life. So this is when I was talking about this beige possibly going back and going into the deck comes into play, because it is a blocker. It is a 1-cost blocker. And yes, we have Toki to fill that role, but she only fills the role if we have a board or something on the board. So I think we can confidently slam 4 of these in there, and it's just fine. Let's see. Did it put them in? Nope, it put in Kurobi. I don't know why it's deciding to put in cards that I am not clicking on, which is crazy. And you guys are seeing this, right? Like, I'm not going crazy. I don't think I'm going crazy. Not yet, at least. We haven't looked at any events yet. I think that with what we've got going on now, we have two good options, three decent options. So our 2 good options that also fit in the decent category are Punk Gibson and Spiderweb, wherever that is. Both of these are very, very good. Spiderweb will help keep our Okikus alive. They'll stand Rizos back up. They'll help keep these alive if we end up needing to swing with these more than once. But I think Punk Gibson is just a little bit better in that it helps further our game plan. So, like, we can rest a 4-drop, swing into the 4-drop with Okiku, and then keep control of the board that way. So I think Punk Gibson is just going to be a little bit stronger than Spiderweb or our third option, which is Paradise Waterfall. Both of these cards are good at keeping our stuff alive, but doesn't interact with our opponent's board at all. And now we're trying to interact with our opponent's board. So something that I was talking about with this card earlier, looking at how the deck looks now, it looks fine. I think this card, and it does make Toki a little bit worse, but this card is very situational in that they have to have something that costs 6 or less. So we are going to take one of this out in favor of another Punk Gibson and more defense. So we've made the deck. We're going to call this Kinemon OP04 because that is what it is. We are going to save it. It is now saved. And then we are going to take it on the ladder. So we're going to go multiplayer, go here. Where's Kinemon? Kinemon OP04. There are a lot of people on the ladder right now. Let's try this person. No, what? They are very particular in what they want. Let's try this person. Nope, still nothing. Sometimes you just have to sit here and refresh for a little bit. Alrighty. Let's try this again. AussieCon, sure. Alright, we're playing against Red. This is going to be a very interesting game. So one thing about me, that if you haven't realized already, I don't film scripted. Maybe in the future when I make like other kinds of content, yes, I will. But I don't film scripted. So whatever happens, happens, and these are like genuine reactions. I am going to put this on YouTube whether or not we win, but this is just to like test out the deck that we just made. So we're going second. This hand fits the criteria of what our deck is trying to do, right? So on turn 1, we can play this Okiku, and then we're off to the races with keeping his board really clean, and then controlling the game from there. So we are absolutely going to keep this hand. Now, something I've noticed, I played this against his leader yesterday, actually, and it did very, very well. Like, way better than I anticipated it ever being able to do. So we're going to slam the Okiku, and we're going to pass. So now what we can do on the next turn is we can swing into... if he draws, like, Rush Zoro, which I don't think he'll play even if he draws it. We can swing into something, rest something, and then oh my god, I was wrong. So okay, cool. So we can let's see. We're probably not going to be playing that card, and we're going to counter out of the first attack because this one's going to be larger. Called that one, so we're going to take this one. Sure. So now, the cool thing we get to do is we get to put a ton of pressure on his board, which is what we're going to do. Okay, so he just lets it die. One drops in red are just scary. So what we get to do now is establish a big old board. I'm going to play the Raizo because I want to start drawing cards, and we're going to save this to rest something later. I haven't played this deck in a long time, so forgive me if I make misplays. But again, I set out to do something very specific with this deck, and currently we are doing that, so I'm not upset with this outcome so far at all. Ah, a jet pistol. Fun. We are going to keep our Okiku alive, though. Ooh, another Okiku. That's actually really strong. So what we're going to do is we're going to keep applying pressure and absolutely destroy this Nami, because this Nami is going to be a problem later. What we can do now... We probably just play another Okiku, to be honest. We'll play this Okiku and be efficient. But I think we can just bluff. Yeah, we can just bluff with these three. So, and sometimes you do that, especially in decks like this that control more. God, double jet pistol? Okay. Sure, bro. You're just better than me. That's the other thing I noticed about this deck in particular, is that this deck will just have it. I mean, he's the protagonist, right? Like, you just are supposed to have it. That's what Luffy does, right? Alright. So he's just had it every time, which is obnoxious, but it's cool because we still get to clear his board. We don't have very many cards because he took out our card draw engine and our card draw piece, so that is annoying. But when he swings into Okiku this time, we're probably just going to let it die. And this is the annoying thing about Red, right? Like, they just get to play good cards. Like Jet Pistol is still an insane form. I think is just good against stuff like this. I don't think it's very good in general right now because things are too fast. But if they just got it, then they just got it. Alright, so this Nami dies. Thinking about saving it there. That would make my day if you just protected this. So I could try to kill it later. Because we're also at 10, so like next turn, if he plays a bunch of rush dudes, even if he kills our Akiku, then we can slam the 10 drop and start chipping away at his life. And it was probably greedy saving the Okiku the first time. But I did it, and I'm sticking to it. I maybe should have played Toki. No, I want to save Toki for when he tries to actually like kill my Kozuki Odin that I've got on the board right now. And he's doing the correct. My opponent is doing the correct thing in top decking his removal. No, in going after Okiku instead of trying to go after my face like most red decks would do. He is doing the right thing in that regard. Okay, so he's playing a rush guy. We take that. So Okiku is dying. Just to let y'all know in advance. Okiku is very dead. Yep, she's just dead. My guess is that he's going to swing at my face. And what I'm going to do now, instead of committing to trying to kill his board, I am going to start trying to win the game, because we are at that point where I really do need to start pressuring his life. Okay, interesting play. I mean, that's fine. I was always taking that. Ooh, could do something really interesting here. Y'all remember when I said I was going to start pressuring his life? Since I drew Raizo, I might end up just going after this. Here, yeah, we're not going to 10 drop this turn. I lied. We're going to test the waters with this. Because if he protects it, then I can get him to potentially 0 cards in hand. If he, like, just dumps everything into protecting this, which might work out for him. Come on, buddy. You got 3 cards in your hand. Okay, so he protected it. And I do think I still have enough Dawn to do what I need to do. Let's see. So we're going to activate this. Cool thing about this leader that you didn't know, or if you didn't know, is that you can always just, like, activate him. Like, you don't have to actually use the effect. So I can play this, that's a 3 Dawn commitment. I've got 9 left. Actually, I'm just going to play it out so I have them on board. And then I can just dump the rest. Actually, I could just dump 7. No, I could dump... We'll play to an out, sort of. I'm going to dump this into killing the Luffy. So now, if... and y'all are going to see me scream. If he top decks or has Fire Fist, then he just outplays me. But this play definitely puts him on better have Fire Fist, or I just get to kind of go crazy with these cards. Now, if he's got Fire Fist, we'll see that hit the board. Oh, he has this again. And then he's gonna go after that, sure, and it's unblockable, which is annoying. Red has this knack for, like, just always having it, right? That's why Red is good. Maybe. Because even when it doesn't have it, it has it. It's so obnoxious. But I mean, this Bandai really does just favor this color. Sure. Because when you swing with your leader, I'm going to take it, and then I'm going to freeze your board. That's so annoying. Red is just an obnoxious color to play against. Best removal in the game, probably the best quality characters in the game. Somebody's going to watch this video and be like, he's just a salty beanie wearing man. Yes. Yes, I am. And Bandai doesn't know how to balance their card games. Oops, Bandai slander on the internet. Pass turn, buddy. You've got nothing. And I took it. Hello? Are you there, bud? Thanks, buddy. Alrighty. So we are going to just attack. Kill that. There's like a next to 0% chance that he protects it. And then next turn, because I'm going to freeze these 2 cards. Next turn, it's going to be like incorrect order of attack, but it's literally so I can start drawing cards with Raizo. Alrighty. Freeze. Stick him up. If he plays another rush guy, I'm just going to scream. That's crazy. Bro, just the number of times that Red always has it baffles me. 2? You're just better. He's just better at this game than me. We're gonna do it this way. He can't counter out of it, so it's just gonna die. And we'll swing here. Because in reality, I think I'm freezing him again to try and kill him in 1 turn. Oh yeah, I'm definitely freezing him again. For sure, now. Now we'll know that if it is a top deck... Oh my god. This order of events is just so freaking wild. Can I kill him next turn? I'm going to try and kill him next turn, I think. Oh. That's actually pretty smart on his part. still insane. His top deck was still absolutely bonkers. There's no questioning that. Like, this into another rush guy is absolutely wild. And like, I'm sure next turn he's probably gonna top deck Magra or Makino, because Red has all these good cards and somehow manages to make room for all of these good cards in their decks. We're gonna kill it. The game plan stays the same, and we're drawing a card. We're actually going to get 2 cards because we are going to do this. Grab. Ooh. Can we play both? Yeah, we can play both. So we're gonna grab this because we are gonna go for game next turn, and then we can play this and replace the Momonosuke with a blocker. So now I have 2 blockers, a ginormous board, and he's top decking. Lord have mercy. This man's top decks have literally just been like game breaking. He's also playing very slowly. How did I know? I told you guys. I told y'all that his next top deck was going to be something to pump up a 1-drop. I told you. I knew it. It's really unfortunate, though, that this is about to just eat. Toki is just going to get obliterated. Farewell, sweet princess. And then I think I'm going to try and kill him. Yeah, I'm killing him this turn. Alrighty. That's amazing. So we're going to do double attack, banish at his life. He has to take it. One, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, my math's correct. My math's correct. Alright, cool. Get to draw a card. Swing 7 with lead. And then to be safe. 16. Yep. Alright, so that was just a nail biter, and I played from behind for most of that game. But, well, he left before I could give him the GG back. But yeah, so, yeah, he just, like, his top decks were absolutely ridiculous. Had me on the edge of my seat the whole time. But, yeah, that's the process of building a deck. Could we go back, make some changes to this deck, and make it better? Yes, most likely. This is probably not the best way to play Kinemon in OP04. The best way to play Kinemon in OP04 is probably to have a different card in this leader zone. But nonetheless, that's my thought process with deck building, and then you guys got to see gameplay of the deck that we literally just crafted on with a leader that I personally really love and enjoy. So yeah, appreciate that, y'all. Thank you.